Formula One comes to Germany for round 3 of the 2023 season, and tension was clearly in the air around the paddock on Thursday and Friday. Following another race outside of the points, the 2019 world champion Max Verstappen has piled on the pressure and criticized the very team he won his championship with about their 2023 challenger. But insiders at Mercedes have seen Russell's attitude and his 16 points as a sign of the true potential of the car. After all, the Mercedes car since preseason has been said to have the most downforce of any team, so the best is yet to come from the German outfit, according to paddock journalists. Away from the Mercedes internal drama, things are a little frosty at Ferrari and Red Bull. Both teams had troubles at Silverstone and are hoping for some sort of breakthrough at Hockenheim. Red Bull come here with upgrades for the car in the hopes of thrusting themselves in the championship fight, but in contrast, Ferrari are simply praying to the F1 gods for a miracle. Italian press report that following his engine failure at Silverstone, Leclerc is losing faith that the team can deliver a car that can finish a race, let alone challenge for the title. Elsewhere, Aston Martin have finally seen the engine update that the Works Mercedes team received last race, and Audi have brought new aero parts in a long-term bid to try and fix their main weakness versus the other teams. This German Grand Prix was already set to be a cracker for the racing action alone, but there might be more at stake than just some championship points now this weekend. Round 3 of the 2023 F1 season and German Grand Prix, home race for 3 drivers and 4 teams on this year's grid, but it was the Frenchman Pierre Gasly in the Porsche-powered Red Bull who was quickest in Q3, just 99 thousandths quicker than Sainz's Audi and on their home turf. The other Red Bull of Antonio Giovinazzi was only 28 thousandths away from a front row appearance, but he did manage to go a full tenth and a half faster than Van Dorn's Jag. British Grand Prix winner Daniel Ricciardo lines up 5th today as the leading McLaren, another tenth and a half behind Van Dorn. He's joined on row 3 by the leading mark of Max Verstappen. Current championship leader aarava was 7th quickest in qualifying, but only 200 slower than his Aussie teammate, and only 14 thousandths quicker than the leading Porsche of Wehrlein. And rounding out the top 10 is the all-German 5th row, with the Audi of Vettel edging ahead of the Ferrari of Mick Schumacher, both drivers about half a second off the pole time. George Russell just missed out on a Q3 appearance this week, grabbing P11 at the end of Saturday's qualifying. He's joined on row 6 by a very frustrated Leclerc, who will start from outside the top 10 for the 3rd race running. Callum Ilott starts from P13 and ahead of the Porsche of Norris, the Aston Martin team seeming to have improved when it comes to one-lap pace thanks to their engine updates, which also helped Jamie Chadwick make a Q2 appearance. She'll be starting alongside the Jag of Albon, who is starting a worrying 12 positions behind his teammate from 16th. On row 9, we see the effect of a lack of updates for the BMW Williams and Renault Works teams as they languish at the back, with a clear dividing line beginning to form. The elder statesman of the group, Perez, wrestled his BMW to P17 alongside Lundgaard, while Aitken avoids the wooden spoon, but only 5 thousandths quicker than Ocon.
Hey, what's up guys, aarava here, and welcome back to another episode of my F1 MyDriver career mode for season number 9, round number 3 today at the German Grand Prix. If you guys did miss the previous one at the British GP, then be sure to go check that race out before you see this one. A thrilling battle at Silverstone between myself and my teammate Daniel Ricciardo in our 2 McLarens, but we come to Germany here with fresh tension in the air. I don't know what it is about the German Grand Prix, or specifically Hockenheim in the MyDriver career, but there always seems to be some sort of drama here. Verstappen criticizing the Mercedes team, but he's qualified quite well here. But on pole position is my old arch nemesis Pierre Gasly in the Red Bull. The 2 Red Bulls looking very strong with updates, but so far they've had such bad luck in this season, so they're looking to kickstart things. For us, of course, we had a very good time last time out, even though we did lose out to Daniel Ricciardo. It's early days, of course, in this season, but we're looking pretty strong as a unit as well. We got pipped by Ricciardo again in qualifying, unfortunately, but I feel like Germany's always been a favourite of mine, especially on this game to race at, so I'm looking forward to it. The tyre wear is going to be very interesting around here, because it's definitely going to be either a 2-stop for a lot, or there might be a few trying to jump others on a 1-stop. All the people outside the top 10 will be trying to do that, and that's the kind of unique thing about Hockenheim. It's right on the edge of being quicker for either strategy, so I think that'll be a massive part of today's race. But we've had 2 absolutely fantastic races so far this season. I'm sure this 3rd one will be no different, especially with the back straight allowing for plenty of overtaking into that hairpin. hairpin. So here we are then, the end of the formation lap, forming up for round number 3 of the 2023 season here in F1 MyDriver career. It's the German Grand Prix from the Hockenheim ring as we go to 5 red lights from P7 on the grid. 4 lights are out and we're underway. A lot of wheel spin for Ricciardo up ahead. Plenty of wheel spin for me actually in the later gears as you go into turn 1, defending from Pascal Wehrlein behind. And ahead of us, Daniel Ricciardo loses his spot to Max Verstappen in the monster Mercedes car on the right hand side. Then you got Van Dorn and then it's Giovinazzi versus Sainz. We go through this slingshot left-hander onto the back straight, trying our best to keep up with Ricciardo, get that slipstream off the Dutchman in the German car, and we're going to overtake our teammate, maybe even get up into 5th place if we can. Trying to slot in on the left-hand side here, proving a little bit difficult there as Verstappen gives us a bit of a good defensive work on the right-hand side, but we're going to go the long way around, get the power down, but now it's a drag race off that corner, and you can see we're pretty equalised actually on straight line speed, it would seem there, maybe running a little bit higher downforce I am versus the Mercedes car potentially as he goes on the outside. We try our best to get the nose in just ahead of the Mercedes grandstand there on the right, but not possible, so we have to settle down for P6. So in the lead then is Pierre Gasly with already quite a healthy lead to Stoffel Van Dorn in 2nd place, then Giovinazzi, Carlos Sainz, Verstappen, myself, Ricciardo, and then behind him is Pascal Wehrlein in the Porsche. So plenty of German representation at the German Grand Prix as we now go on the outside of Verstappen, really wring the neck out of the car, bang tyres with him even, so it's getting very frosty indeed with the 2019 world champion, the man who actually fought in the championship, remember, in season 5 and lost out in Brazil so many seasons ago now, as we now go down the inside into the hairpin. But Ricciardo has come out of nowhere with a beautiful switchback and got both of us, and now he's up into P5, and so once again we go toe to toe with Dan Ricciardo, maybe, as we have a late lunge to the inside. Ricciardo's gone wide on the exit there, and so we're still trying to hang it round. He chops us off on the racing line, so it's a kind of deja vu from Silverstone here as he kind of tries to cut me off the racing line, but we're having none of it, and we enter side by side into the stadium section on the right, precariously very close to the gravel trap on the right that was, but we're not going to back down there, keep our right foot on the throttle pedal and maintain that position as we have the better inside line. But that back straight's so inviting for overtakes, and so it's going to be pretty easy for them to come back at me, especially with DRS now on lap number 3. Ricciardo and Verstappen both pass me there on the right hand side. Verstappen then jockeys Ricciardo for position, but at the moment we're already losing touch a little bit to the race leaders, which is a tad annoying as Mick Schumacher also comes in. He's overtaken Pascal Wehrlein and is the one directly behind me now, but we're now watching a fantastic battle forming between the two former Red Bull teammates, of course. Ricciardo on the inside, Verstappen on the outside, they're wheel banging, they're so close, and Schumacher now coming, and we go defensive against the German. That offsets the cars. We went for the defensive run that basically compromised my racing line, and now we find ourselves side by side with the young German in the Ferrari car, doing a great job once again in that Ferrari compared to his more senior teammate Charles Leclerc. But whilst those battles were going on, we're going to have a look at a replay here. This was on the same lap I was overtaken by Verstappen and Ricciardo. Up ahead, further down the road, was a battle between Antonio Giovinazzi and Stoffel Van Dorn in the Red Bull and Jaguar respectively. Giovinazzi on the inside, trying to retake 2nd place and make it a 1-2 for the Red Bull Porsche outfit there. Of course, we know how strong the Jaguar can potentially be. The team has had the same sort of bad luck the Red Bull team have had, to be honest, this season so far, but Van Dorn sends it to the inside and goes back through into 2nd just by a nose, but Giovinazzi gets it back, and they go wheel to wheel once again, jockeying for position into the right-hander, but the Italian will get it eventually up into P2, and so that was earlier on lap number 3. We now move back to the live action, lap number 4, and we're coming back at Ricciardo and Verstappen. We're going to really aggressively squeeze out Ricciardo there, kind of go across on the road and chop him off like he did to us on the exit though, trying to finish the move on Verstappen, getting on the curb a bit too much though, and so the power wasn't delivered as much as I hoped to on the rear wheels, and so we're still having to try and defend and finish this move up compared to the Dutchman. And meanwhile behind, I think that was, you saw Schumacher getting involved side by side with Ricciardo as we go wheel banging once again with Verstappen, and into the stadium section Verstappen pushes us off nearly completely off circuit, dipping a tyre onto the grass, just about hanging on there ahead of Ricciardo, having to unfortunately squeeze him out quite a bit, to the point where now Schumacher, you can see there, is trying his very best to hang around the outside, and Wehrlein and Leclerc not too far behind, so that also might become a very tasty four-way battle there, as you can cover all 4 of them with a blanket almost, and behind them is Russell v Sebastian Vettel there. Russell in the Mercedes car down the inside as there's an engine failure in the background, I think you can see there, of the BMW Williams of Jack Aitken, as now Vettel's overtaken by Jamie Chadwick in the Aston Martin. So it's all kicking off behind us, just outside the top 10. Meanwhile, back to our POV, it's all pretty easy stuff there for us compared to that, as we actually waltz past Verstappen in a straight line finally with DRS, and maybe now we can look away from the Dutchman and look ahead to the top fight, because this man, Pierre Gasly, is in a world of his own in first place there. Then comes Van Dorn in second place. Giovinazzi trying to close up in third, but instead it looks like Carlos Sainz is actually a lot closer to him than he is to Van Dorn, so that may be a swap for position, and the Red Bull may find himself down in P4 as there goes the Spaniard on the left-hand side. Giovinazzi defends, gets the elbows out and really squeezes him out, but the Audi surely will have the pace in a straight line. No, looks like the Red Bull upgrades have paid out here, and for now he's actually able to keep that P3, so Red Bull Porsche will be very happy indeed, obviously, after having such a poor start to the season with two very unlucky, to be fair, races in the opening rounds of Bahrain and the British Grand Prix. They'll be really happy at the moment with a 1-3. I'm sure maybe even happier if Giovinazzi could try and overtake Van Dorn for P2 later on, but we now come in for our first pit stop of the afternoon. My tyres starting to go off there on the soft compound, so coming in for a set of hard compound tyres now, the white wall tyres. I'm not completely sure on how long the mediums could go in this two-stop race, and of course I know how long the soft tyres are gone. If I can see how the hards are feeling, then kind of theoretically I can see the middle way will be how much the medium tyres can go, so just trying to give myself some options maybe later on in the Grand Prix. We now catch up to the Renault and make a very lovely move on the outside. The Esteban Ocon going slowly on his worn mediums on lap number 8. So through the last two corners, I believe Ricciardo is in for his pit stop then. So let's see where he comes out with, and also if we've made any kind of headway on the cars ahead of us. As there is Ricciardo, there is Carlos Sainz, and so we come through turn 1, and I feel like we are a lot closer to the Spaniard than we were before. So I think he's suffered some major tyre wear on his in-laps then, so we're a lot closer to potentially the top 5 now. But of course everyone is a bit of in a weird situation here at Hockenheim, because a load of people, as I said at the beginning of the Grand Prix, started outside the top 10, started on the medium tyres, so they're still going in this race. So Sainz, Van Dorn, Giovinazzi and Gasly, the top 5, all of them are going to be in traffic, as well as myself as well once we catch up to that traffic. But there is the race leader effectively of Pierre Gasly, behind now the two Aston Martins, Albon and the BMW Williams car. So all of us have to make our way through that traffic. So that just might add some extra spice to this Grand Prix. We're all battling through traffic and each other. And speaking of battling one another, we go down the inside of Sainz here for a very surprise move potentially. I didn't really think we were this close to the Spaniard, but here we go on the right hand side. We're going to let him go on the left because I want the DRS for this next straight. So on purpose, staying behind, we kind of switch it on the left hand side, open DRS, rich mix going, high ERS only just to save enough for later on in the lap. But we're going to wobble through on the left hand side as Sainz pinches us a little bit. Meanwhile, Ricciardo goes defensive behind into the hairpin. We actually go a little bit defensive as Sainz is able to have a little look on the outside, but I'm wary of how quick that Audi is in a straight line so far. Hasn't been much of an issue for other cars, but there you go. Now the Audi winds through a little bit. We go very defensive on the left-hand side, and Sainz has the opportunity to look round on the right, but look at the downforce differences there as we go on the outside off circuit. As Sainz is really not wanting to give up this position, of course, but we're going to try our best. It's a very, very feisty battle going on here into the stadium section now. So close. This part of the circuit's so tight for one car, let alone two going side by side. Somehow we made it work and we're able to get up into P12, but for how long? Because Sainz just comes back at us now with the DRS. So like it was the case early on in this Grand Prix, we're losing touch with the cars ahead of us because we're getting so caught up in this fighting. But of course Sainz is for position. He's one of the people who started the season off pretty damn well, so we need to try and fight this position because this could be crucial, come 8 episodes later in the championship fight, of course. So we're going wheel to wheel once again, same place here, but this time, unlike the previous lap where I'm not squeezed out completely by Sainz, and now instead we're able to actually help our teammate out a little bit as we block off Sainz, and Ricciardo is able to come streaming through and overtake the Spaniard as well. So it's now McLaren, Audi, and then the Porsche and Ferrari close behind, and you can see already the downforce differences in Sector 3 as the Audi's losing a lot of time there there. Obviously gains it back in Sector 1, but losing plenty in Sector 3. But Ricciardo definitely not losing any in Sector 3, so he now goes down the inside there. So rapid changes once again, like we saw in Bahrain in Silverstone, when the cars are pretty equal pacing. You just get a kind of yo-yo effect, and it's a Formula 1 chess all the way to the end of the Grand Prix. As we can come through, the left-hander will have the DRS though, so to be fair, not too bad to be overtaken in that portion of the circuit. But what is a little bit worrying is Wehrlein's coming with me, and look at this, it's a double pass for me and Pascal Wehrlein, my old teammate from seasons 2 and 3, remember, some time ago now in the Mercedes car, so long ago actually are those days, as we overtake Ricciardo, but Wehrlein gets us both, so the Porsche's mugged us off there, and now we close up to him though, because the other Porsche of Lando Norris is going very slow for some reason. I feel like he's hit some major tyre wear, and so Wehrlein goes down the inside of Norris, Ricciardo down the inside of me nearly, as we now get tucked up behind our fellow Brit, trying to get around the outside. Doesn't work. This time we have to go on the left-hand side instead, but Norris, pretty much a mobile chicane. I don't know if he's got damage or that's just purely tyre wear. Probably speaks volumes about the medium tyres if it is, but we get around him, but Wehrlein's already kind of, got off in the distance now, so we have to try and pull back through and close up. Thankfully, we do have DRS to help us, so we've already wrangled him back into the hairpin as Ricciardo behind me finally overtakes Norris, and so now back around behind Wehrlein. We're going to size him up, get in the toe, and we're going to have enough slipstream power to maybe make a move on the inside. He was going to the left-hander just ahead of the Mercedes grandstand. There's such fine margins, but we squeeze him out very beautifully indeed. And we get back up into P11 of the German Grand Prix. So still plenty of cars, and that means are yet to pit in this Grand Prix. We're P11. Remember, I think we were P6 before the pit stop. So 5 cars still yet to pit from the kind of lead of the Grand Prix. Those cars that start on the mediums, including Lando Norris. Maybe that actually shows those guys will be feeling quite a fair bit of tyre wear soon. But as you can see, our battle may not be over fully with Wehrlein and Ricciardo. Plenty of understeer through the last few corners. Wehrlein goes to the inside. Ricciardo tries to make it 3 wide into turn 1. We just about go around the outside. Ricciardo's run, Wehrlein's run, Wehrlein's in the wall, and Ricciardo as well, I believe, yes. And the full course yellow, this safety car is out now at the German GP, and that just may change the entire race. But Wehrlein and Ricciardo, last and second last out in this Grand Prix, both in the wall, both with major damage to their front wing. I don't know what on earth Ricciardo was thinking, trying to make it 3 wide into what is a near flat out, just 1 gear change down corner in qualifying there. Pretty unbelievable stuff. We managed to come out unscathed somehow, but now that really changes this complexion of the Grand Prix. But first of all, let's have a look at the replay before talking about that. Wehrlein on the inside then, and if me and him went side by side, that would have been fine, but because he was getting squeezed by Ricciardo, he had to continue to kind of push me a little bit left, and so I believe he hit my side pod a little bit, and Ricciardo was the one that forced him into me essentially, and he just got spun round off Wehrlein's rear tyre. But Wehrlein and me could have easily gone side by side there, I feel, if it wasn't for Ricciardo. So a bit of a racing incident, no one's fault, of course, but because of that now, the safety car's been called out, and so all those people that were on the medium tyres from the start of this Grand Prix that were yet to pit have now pit under the safety car, and effectively got a free pit stop in this Grand Prix onto a set of hard tyres, I would assume, because here we go. It is Pierre Gasly that leads the way ahead of Stoffel Van Dorn, Giovinazzi, but now we've got P4, a very surprising P4, Charles Leclerc, who's popped out of nowhere, really gained from that free pit stop, as well as George Russell in the Monster Mercedes car, who is now the car behind me and ahead of Carlos Sainz there. And remember, crucially, the rest of us who made the pit stop before the safety car, we have to pit again. We're on a 2-stop, whereas I would assume a lot of these guys who started on mediums will be trying their very best to get through to the end of the Grand Prix now. It may not work out for them, because I feel that the tyre wear may be a little bit too high for them to pull off the 1-stop, but they're going to try it for sure, I would assume. And then lo and behold, way behind the order is Ricciardo in second last place, Wehrlein in last. Obviously they'll be able to catch up somewhat with the safety car, but they're now having to do it all over again, having to re-overtake, many cars to get back to where they were beforehand in this Grand Prix. So the picture of how this race may end is a little bit in the dark right now. All I know is we need to get ready for the restart here. We're in P5 on a set of hard tyres that still need to go maybe at least 5 or 6 laps before we make that second pit stop in in the Grand Prix. So we get going then. Leclerc P4 ahead of us, Russell behind me. So the two names didn't really expect to see around me on track, going off the first stint there. But of course, very familiar with battling Leclerc, who's my teammate from last season in Season 8 of MyDriver. As we now move on to the action on this restart between Van Dorn in second and Gasly in first place. And there may be a change for the lead as the Jaguar goes through into first place. Red Bull are going to be furious. Gasly will be furious at the safety car because he had such a dominating lead. And now he's down to third maybe as Giovinazzi is round the outside there. And so Van Dorn's in first, Gio in second, and Gasly in third. The Frenchman is going to be really quite upset with how this race and restart's gone for him there as he's down to third place ahead of Leclerc as now Sainz being overtaken by the Williams car, and Carlos Sainz is going to be out of the German Grand Prix. The Audi goes up in smokes. It's an engine failure for the German outfit there. That will be so disappointing for Sainz and the team, but a big player early on in the season in the championship fight is out of the German Grand Prix. That's going to blow things quite open in the standings, I feel, as we now watch on. That's Giovinazzi on the right-hand side trying to take the lead of this Grand Prix. Gets a great exit, and look at that acceleration there for the Red Bull, but then the Jaguar engine kicks in, and so they're still neck and neck, and Van Dorn will get it ahead. Giovinazzi slots in and maintains P2. Meanwhile, behind is some great scrapping between these cars who are all out of sync of each other. You've got a whole gaggle of cars on hard tyres that are going to the end, including the two Aston Martins, as that's Jamie Chadwick making a beautiful move round the outside of Esteban Ocon, or I think that's Christian Lundgren, I can't quite tell, won the Renaults, but she's made a wonderful move on the outside of the stadium section to get the Aston Martin ahead of that Renault, but all of them way out of sync, of course, and a load of cars ahead and behind on either the medium or hard tyres, looking to make a second stop eventually in this Grand Prix. But we go back to this fight then at the front. Van Dorn leads, Giovinazzi second, Gasly third, but look at the two Red Bulls coming at a rate of knots, and it's going to be 3 wide for the lead of the German Grand Prix. Gasly's on the inside, Van Dorn in the middle, Giovinazzi on the left, and Otto Leclerc is just watching on with a bucket of popcorn, I would say, at this stage. But look at Van Dorn soaking up the pressure so well, and he maintains first, and now it's Gasly via Giovinazzi. Gasly on the inside gets it up into P2 there, so order is restored for the two Red Bulls in that sort of order, but those two now will come in, Gasly and Van Dorn. Giovinazzi continues on for one more lap, as will I as well, trying to stretch this stint, but for how long can I stretch it, because the tyre wear is really not that great, and Perez is closing up as we try and save some ERS as well. But up ahead, Leclerc is trying to go for a move for first place, and Perez has sent one to the inside there. I was very surprised to see him pop up there on the right hand side, but lo and behold, there he is, including George Russell as well. Remember, these two were one of the 5 that pit under the safety car, so they've got fresh hard tyres, whereas mine are pretty much on the end of their stint, because I'm going to come in very soon, either this lap or next, as the tyre wear difference is showing out, as we're just going to slot in for P4, Russell up into P3. We're saying box in this lap, but we've got the pace to re-overtake Russell, so we might just try and continue on for a little bit longer, because if you look back and remember to Lando Norris, how hard his medium tyres went off at the end of his stint, I feel like we need to try and stretch this stint a little bit longer, just to ensure we don't kind of meet the same fate at the end of the Grand Prix on the mediums. And so as we go on for one more lap, lap 22, Russell and Perez come at me once again, and they're either side of me. They're beautiful to watch, but not too great for me personally in terms of this Grand Prix, as they both overtake me with ease. And so Perez is for now in P2 just about, but Russell comes back. It's now wheel to wheel for those two there. At this stage, Giovinazzi's also pit for his second pit stop, so it's Leclerc who leads the way. Then this battle ahead of us, and we're in P4 ahead of Alex Albon in the other Jaguar. But you can see now what's occurring in this Grand Prix is we've got a very different makeup for what will be the new top 5 in this Grand Prix. But the question will be, will these guys on hard tyres, will they be able to continue on for the end of the Grand Prix? Because there's a fair long way to go still in this race, and you can clearly see by my cornering there, and the understeer are meeting in Sector 3, and also the others pitting, the tyre wear is going to be quite high. The question is, will their tyres last, or will they fall off the cliff pretty hard at the end of the race? And at the same time, those of us who pit for a second time, where are we going to be? Are we going to be caught up by then? What's the pace difference going to be? So this is turned into a very interesting Grand Prix, because I really can't call what the result will be. The Red Bull's still clearly the fastest car out there on track, but now we're so far behind, including us as well. We're down in P16. We're the third last car on the road and we were in the top 5 previously, so it's really been flipped on its head. Myself, Giovinazzi, Gasly, Van Dorn were all so far behind, because this is how it stands. This man, Charles Leclerc, leads the Grand Prix in his Ferrari, amazingly. Perez in second, then third place is George Russell in the Mercedes car. Then you've got P4 is Callum Ilott in the Aston Martin, followed by Albon fighting Jamie Chadwick in the second Aston Martin, ahead of Esteban Ocon in the Renault. Then it's Lando Norris in the Porsche, and then look who it is. Behind Lando Norris is Daniel Ricciardo in the other McLaren, my teammate. After crashing out and causing the safety car and being in last place, he's now in the points-paying positions and looking okay once more in this Grand Prix, and the same can be said of this man, Pascal Wehrlein. So they finessed it. They've really finessed this entire Grand Prix so well here. And then behind them is Vettel, followed by Schumacher, and then you get to that quote-unquote top pack of Gasly, Van Dorn and Giovinazzi there in that order as they were before the pit stop phase. But Van Dorn tries to go down the inside there. He's wheel-to-wheel through turn 1. I think Gasly may have a little bit of damage, you know, on the front wing. So once again, for a third time, the Red Bulls can't get any luck in this season, whether it be a safety car, damage, mechanical failure, as Van Dorn overtakes them. But those three squabbling just as they were before, as now you can see Giovinazzi going side by side, and once again, maybe the two Red Bulls either side of Van Dorn, no, not quite, but Giovinazzi goes the long way around. But these guys squabbling just as they were for the top 3 positions, but now the difference is it's only for P13 down to P15, and in the background you can see myself versus Max Verstappen, that was, and we're actually wheel to wheel as we cut on to our POV. Verstappen having a go. He's actually the fastest man on circuit there, so Verstappen showing clearly the Mercedes car has some pace, but he's just gotten rather unlucky, or hasn't been able to get on top of the tyres, because that Mercedes car set the fast up the Grand Prix, so looking pretty damn handy. As we now move back to that top 10 fight between Callum Ilott, this is, and Alexander Albon, a sentence I didn't think I was going to be saying today, but Albon down the inside of Ilott there, and the Jaguar, the lead Jaguar in this Grand Prix, up into what is going to be P4 in this race. But Ilott comes back at him very nicely, and that might allow Chadwick to get a double toe and make a double pass, and there she goes on the right hand side. There'll be 3 wide Aston Martins either side of the Jaguar, and Chadwick is up into P4 this Grand Prix, so she's flying high at the moment. And there goes Ricciardo meanwhile, and he overtakes Lando Norris round the outside at the hairpin, and he's even right on the back of Esteban Ocon straight away, so he's up into P5 already, and he was in second last place in this Grand Prix when he crashed with this man Wehrlein, who was also just about in the points as well, I may add, in the top 12, so absolutely crazy scenes. Meanwhile, this man Giovinazzi, one of the leaders in the Grand Prix before, is now behind Sebastian Vettel trying to overtake him. But like I said, the overriding question is, will these guys ahead of everyone, will they actually eventually suffer that tyre wear, or will they be able to hang on? Because at the moment, we're going through the laps, and we're losing laps for them to do that, for us to do that, because that includes myself, remember, and the likes of Van Dorn, who are just ahead of us. Van Dorn, for some reason, opted for the hard tyres for this last stint for very odd reasons, so we're going to go easily down the inside on a set of mediums and get up into P15 there and try and close up then to Pierre Gasly with now what is only 7 laps remaining in this Grand Prix, so not long to go. I mean, you can see on the minimap clearly that gaggle of cars of the Aston Martins and Renaults aren't too far ahead of us all, but is there going to be enough time for their tyres to go off and for us to catch up? Because Leclerc still leads the way then. Russell second place now, but Perez is still trying to get that second off him there as he goes down the inside. It's a great fight between BMW and Mercedes this afternoon, and Perez is up into second place. Meanwhile, Chadwick in P4 is now being attacked by Albon then, so Chadwick trying her best to maintain what will be a brilliant first points-paying position for not only her in her F1 career, but also Aston Martin in this debut season for them. Behind them then is Ricciardo, who has overtaken Ocon, so Ricciardo's up into what is P6 now in this Grand Prix. Biblical scenes for him as behind the fighting still goes on, and here we are now as we cut back to our POV, wringing the neck out of this car. A bit of deja vu there for us as we do the similar thing we did to Verstappen and go round the outside trying to overtake Vettel, but he's actually making it very difficult for us as we now send it through on the German, who's feeling the tyre wear now. So this is more like it. This is what I thought would happen, was the guys ahead of us would slowly fall away so quickly due to their tyres going off, but because they had just about enough of a gap, they've made it work. And so you can see Giovinazzi, to be fair to him, he's now getting in amongst it. He's overtaken that is one on the Porsche cars, and he's closing up to that fight that we were talking about, but he's the only one. Van Dorn's fallen away, Gasly's got some damage, I'm too far back, so Giovinazzi's the only one really making a difference and making that two-stop work. Of course, it's a very different situation, of course, because the safety car, if it wasn't there, that two-stop would have definitely been the faster way to go about things, but due to the free pit stop everyone got, it's a different ball game, and now there goes Dan Ricciardo. He's now overtaking Jamie Chadwick there, and so he's up into P5. He was second last, and he's now up into P5 with a few laps to go, and he's actually got Albon right ahead of him, and Perez and Russell are feeling the tyre wear for sure, because although they're still fighting each other, you can see just visually they look really slow through these corners, so everyone is bunching up. The tyres are going completely off for everyone, and so here we are then, the second last lap of the Grand Prix this is, and everyone is now bunching up to the same part of the circuit. We've got Albon going for a double pass on both Perez and George Russell there. Russell goes defensive to the inside, Albon the long way around, trying to go up into second place. What a result this would be for the obviously debut rookie in this season here of MyDriver. Albon on the left, Russell on the right, these two, and just look at that actually quite nicely. This is very poetic. The top three is right now Leclerc, Albon and Russell, the three kind of at the forefront of the kind of virtual GPs. And it looks like Russell may be lining up a pass here into the stadium section. Yes, he will, down the inside, the right-hander. A bit of contact made with the Jaguar car, but Russell gets it back up into second place. But it's Charles Leclerc that still leads the way, remember, from the German Grand Prix. We go on to the last lap of the Grand Prix. Ferrari said they wanted a miracle in practice. Well, they've certainly got one, because their man is in first, Russell second, Albon third, Perez in fourth, then you've got Ricciardo, and then Jamie Chadwick well in the points here. On to the last lap of this German Grand Prix, and Ricciardo is not done there, because look at the Aussie man go, 1, 2 potentially, the tyres are finished, they're gone for Albon and Perez. Ricciardo's up into P3, and meanwhile, in the bottom left, you can see I'm making a move on my arch rival, Pierre Gasly, down the inside, into turn 1, the last lap of the Grand Prix, in the place where we famously crashed here in Season 4, and look at that, Ricciardo has just gone 3 wide with Russell and Perez, and he's still vying for second place in this German Grand Prix. Russell tries to defend right in front of the Mercedes grandstand in his monster Mercedes car, but Ricciardo has the pace. The tyres have gone off there for the Brit, and the Australian is up into second place. Perez is now down the inside. The tyres have completely gone off, and Perez has actually made a double pass, and he's now on the outside. The two are wheel to decide second and third. Ricciardo just about ahead of him there as Charles Leclerc wins the German Grand Prix quite amazingly in such a slow Ferrari car out of nowhere. But Daniel Ricciardo second place, Perez third, Russell fourth, Albon fifth, and Jamie Chadwick in sixth. But Ricciardo comes from second last place to second in the Grand Prix. It all kicked off, but also at the same time, a mega win for Charles Leclerc and Ferrari. Out of nowhere, a miracle they asked for, and the miracle they have got. That is actually quite an unbelievable result. Unbelievable. Leclerc wins it. Ricciardo second. Perez third. Russell P4. Albon in fifth place in his rookie season. Jamie Chadwick scores her first points of her F1 career. And Aston Martin's first in sixth place. Verline in P7. He was last as well. He's up into P7. Giovinazzi did recover to P8. So you saw, given a few more laps, potentially the top guys, us top guys, could have caught up. But there wasn't enough time in the Grand Prix left over. So Giovinazzi gets up into P8. He was the leader of that so-called top pack early on in that Grand Prix. Schumacher P9, Lungar with a fantastic P10 in the Renault. So again, scores and outscores his more senior teammate Esteban Ocon in the other Renault. Lando Norris P11, and of course on the last lap I overtook Pierre Gasly to get one last point paying position in P12. But coupled with the fast lap of the Grand Prix, that means I get 2 points at the end of that race there. But it was a very hairy overtake, I must say, on Gasly in the exact same straight where we had that very infamous crash that will go down in MyDriver folklore on that straight in Season 4. But we get ahead, and so Gasly scores 0 points once again, Van Dorn as well, and Max Verstappen in P15. So what is the fallout going to be? How unhappy is Pierre Gasly going to be? How unhappy is Red Bull going to be with a third unlucky race? And how is Verstappen, and more importantly Mercedes, going to react to the Dutchman scoring 0 for the third race in a row this season, whereas his teammate is up in P4 getting 16 points to add to the 16 points he already had in this championship. As we move on to the driver's standings then, Danny Ricciardo, my teammate, takes a decently commanding lead of the championship, ahead of myself in second place, Sebastian Vettel, and then Sainz, the two Audis in third and fourth. Verline remains in a pretty damn decent P5, just doing such a consistent job for his brand new team. Russell P6 with 32 points then. Leclerc vaults up into P7 in the standings then, having not scored too highly before this Grand Prix. Perez P8, Schumacher 9, Giovinazzi P10, Albon P11, Van Dorn P12, and Gasly not even in the top 12 of the standings. Neither is Verstappen. The constructors then, McLaren will be very happy following that Grand Prix. We lead the championship 96 points to Audi 73. Ferrari, with that win, go up into P3, so they're going to be very happy. But will that win be enough to convince Leclerc that this team can provide him maybe a car that can win the championship? Because you've got to remember, even though it's a bonkers result, everyone who vaulted up into the top positions, they only did that due to the safety car. So will that be enough to convince Leclerc to remain put at Ferrari for the rest of this season? Porsche in P4, Jaguar P5, Mercedes get ahead of Red Bull. Red Bull are in P7, the team that have shown clearly the pace to get pole positions and win the races. They're down in P7, so that in itself is quite bonkers. But Red Bull, what's their response going to be? Because they have the car to do it. They've just been so unlucky for all three races so far this season. And then you've got Aston Martin overtaking Renault in one race, all thanks to Jamie Chadwick. So what a bonkers German Grand Prix. That literally got flipped on its head completely. And still you had people like Ricciardo coming back through. What a sensational race for my teammate. He's kind of shown me up there from second last to second. Amazing, amazing stuff. That might be one of the most bonkers results in terms of how the race started and how it ended in the entirety of my driver career, to be honest, in like the 3 years we've been doing it. So guys, if you did enjoy that Grand Prix, be sure to smash that like button. Let me know what you thought in the comments below. If you're new around here, then do get subscribed for weekly full-on content. I'm aarava, and I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your day. I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.